afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this event. We thank Carmen Araujo Arte for inviting the Sala Mendoza for this international series of talks about the work of the designer Ricardo Báez that is currently being exhibited in their facility. We thank as well at the Embassy of the Netherlands for the sponsors that has made this exhibition possible. Welcome again to Librofoto, la Fotolibrería Holandesa. All the participants can leave their questions and comments into the chat in this chat section, excuse me. Welcome, Ricardo Báez.
Hello everyone. We're really proud and excited to be here with these amazing Dutch designers. I'm going to be like a little introduction about the two of them, and then later they're going to show their work, and we're going to talk about photo books or just books. Let me share some screen now.
Now, yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this conversation is part of the section in the exhibition called the La Fotolibrería Holandesa, or if we could call it in English, the Dutch photo bookstore, which is a selection of more than 100 books with books from the Eriskay Connection, Roma Publication, FW Books, basada and publishers, and books also designed from Sip. Today we're gonna have Sybren Kuiper and Rolf van Hoesel from the Eriskay Connection. So I'm gonna tell a little bit about each one. The Eriskay Connection is a Dutch studio for design and an independent publisher, and they focus on contemporary storytelling at the intersection of photography, research, and writing, in close collaboration with authors. We make books as an autonomous body of work that provide us with new and necessary insights into the world around us. The key for us is to convey the essence of their work through high quality editing, design, and production. Our editions are mainly offset printing and bound in the Netherlands, as we strive to work with local producers and sustainable materials as much as possible. And Rolf van Hoesel studied graphic design at HKV St. Just in Breda, Netherlands, graduated in 2002. He worked at design studio Carmen Araujo in Utrecht for 4 years and started his own studio by the end of 2005. And 2011, he started an independent publishing house called the Eriskay Connection. Van Hoesel's studio mainly works on book design and editorial projects besides cultural identities and print campaigns. It is specifically interested in projects that map a relevant matter, provide insight into the work we live in, tell a story, make a statement, expose a history, or give directions to our view in the future. And we love our projects that flirt with science. Then later, Sip, Dutch graphic designer Sybren Kuiper. I don't know if it's I'm telling always his name, it's okay. So he later going to say it, okay. He studied Dutch language and literature at the University of Utrecht. After graduating, he studied graphic design at the Art Academy, also in Utrecht. Since 1994, he works as an independent graphic designer. Sip works almost exclusively for a wide range of cultural clients. The first half of his career, predominantly design, poster flyers, and programs for theaters, productions, and festivals. The last 15 years, he worked on catalogs commissioned by museums, publishers, photographers, and other artists. Sip is always looking for new ways to transform the reading of a photo book or book into a new experience, to elevate the narrative of a project, to make it more than a collection of pictures alone. Apart from a strong approach to editing, sequencing, and a keen eye for the use of text, he utilizes all the physical possibilities and characteristics of the book format itself, sometimes deceptively simple, sometimes neglecting and stretching the boundaries of bookmaking. Sip also designs corporate identities and exhibitions. He's part-time teacher and art director. Occasionally, he writes on behalf of his clients. Syb's work has been widely recognized nationally and internationally, and since 2017, he's member of the AGI, Alliance Graphic International. So I'm gonna give the word to Rob.
All right, can you hear me, Ricardo?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will share my screen.
Yeah.
All good now?
Perfect.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Ricardo, for this opportunity and for inviting me for this lecture or this talk, and also for putting our books into the exhibition. From what I've seen through pictures, I think it looks wonderful. So thank you for that. Before I will talk about some of the books I designed, I thought I would take you into two books from my childhood that I think these are the first two books that inspired me in my life. The first one, I love to play with Legos as a kid. So the first one is this Lego inspirational book, which I still have here, kept it all these years. And as a kid, I wasn't much of a reader. I was someone playing with Legos or playing outside or drawing or things like that, but I didn't read any books, which may sound a little strange for a publisher, but I was into books that have had images. And this first book is a book completely full of images. So it's language free. And what I like about it is through those images of these Lego setups, it triggered my fantasy and my imagination, and it inspired me to build things of my own. And I think this is a very important thing that photo books or image books as such can do. So for me, I think it's a really important book, and it's also connected to what we do now with the publishing house. The second book of my childhood is this book, which translates into the big animal book for the youth. So this was an animal atlas full of nice, intriguing illustrations of animals throughout the world. And what I liked about this is that these visuals really draw me into this book. And then I started to read all those small pieces of text around those images. So I feel that an image can do such a thing. It can be like the opening gate of the world you're about to discover. And then, I always think of a book as like a huge building. So you have the main gate where you enter the building, but then you have all kinds of side rooms and deeper layers and cellars and attics and stuff like that to discover. This is also how I like to make books, to have this strong visual appearance and design appearance, and then to take in the reader, and then the reader can discover all those extra layers of information. So these two books, I think, could be like, they resemble our publishing program a little bit. So on one hand, we have books with only images that are much more immersive and intense maybe, and on the other hand, we have those books with text, and this could be more documentary or poetic text. But so this book, the first book I like to show you, is I think a good example of the first one, a book without any text at all. This is a book called Event Horizon by Stéphanie Roland, a Belgian photographer, and she makes this really fantasyful images, dreamlike, maybe a bit scary images, and this book is about childhood and what childhood is. A lot of times childhood is represented with this very colorful, positive, happy world, but then of course children have also anxieties, and they have maybe nightmares, and they have maybe strange, they're relating strangely to the reality and stuff like that. So with her images, they are very intense, and I wanted to use them all full bleed in this book. But then if you use these type of images, quite strong images, if you put them in a book one after another, it's going to overwhelm you too much. So I was looking for like a break in these in between those images, and normally these would be maybe white pages, but I wanted to keep the dark, moody feeling of this this work. And then I thought of using blue paper in between those sections of images. It's actually blue paper printed again with blue ink to really have this deep blue, intense tone. And it's hard to see in these images, but the book has like sections of 8 to 12 blue pages in between where nothing happens. So for me, this book resembles also an uncertain future. It's almost like these are future events, maybe nightmares you have. And these blue pages for me resemble like the unknown events that may occur in the future. So to give this extra feeling, I used this page numbers, but it's not normal page numbers, but I added a few thousand just to resemble the like a date, like a year in the future, in the near future. So the blue pages do have page numbers and they run through the book, but they are more like years in the future. I think this adds to the strange feeling these images have already. So I think this is a good example of a book where, you know, you try to find in a technical element like the blue paper, you find an element that emphasizes the whole feeling of the book. And this is what I always looking for, or try to look for. Like how can you use typography or printing or binding or color to emphasize the essence of a book.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rob. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You say that the blue pages were blue printed in the same blue page, or was just printed in blue?
No, so it was actually blue paper, which already had quite an intense color.
Okay.
But then it was printed again with a very intense blue as well.
Oh, okay.
So you have
it's like a double blue.
Yeah. So you get a very intense. Well, it looks a little bit different on the screen, but you get a very intense blue feeling, and we use the same blue as a fifth color in the images as well. So there's this overall bluish tone in the images as well.
Perfect. So sorry to interrupt you. I want to be clear with that.
No, please interrupt me if there's anything.
Okay.
Yeah. The next book I like to show you is also about a strange world, but it's a more concrete world. It's the world of fundamental research, scientific research. This is a book called Universe by Jos Janssen. And Jos is always interested in this relationship between technology and science and the human being. And often this scientific world is so strange to us and so unclear. So he visited all kinds of research labs and institutions where they work on fundamental research. And fundamental research is actually like looking for knowledge for the sake of the knowledge. So without any purpose already, just, you know, try to understand scientific things. And Jos is a photographer. He tries to find an image that resembles a certain research field, and make it into an art image or an artistic image. Again, this would be relating to the animal book I showed you. So the images here really function as the main gate to enter this world. And then what we try to do is to make it understandable what this specific image is about. We use the small pieces of text in a tilted way, so that the reader would first really look at the image, and then secondly read the text, so he could learn a little bit about what he's looking at, what these scientific fields are about. Yeah, to get into this. So, for instance, the image on the right bottom, the small glass tube, it contains 2 mice breasts, which the scientists use to do research on cancer and things like that. So this is a small. So to me, the image is already intriguing, and then if you read a small piece of text explaining what you're looking at, it's becoming even more interesting. So this is the thing we did, trying to make a visually very interesting book, as well as a book where you can learn something or understand something about what you see.
So sorry, I want, maybe I will ask you in the questions, but I'm really intrigued with that last sentence you said, that maybe I'm imagining that this type of books that everyone calls it photo books are the new ways of learning, you know, like the new books for school.
I think so. Yeah, I learned that roughly around 10% of the people are visual thinkers. So 90% of the people are textual thinkers. If you say a chair, they think of the word chair or the definition of chair. And probably a lot of photographers and designers, they think about an image of a chair. They think about and they don't not only think about one chair, they think about a lot of chairs. They think about the Rietveld chair, or about the famous designed chairs and things like that. And I do think that for a certain group of people, visual books can be a tool for education, to learn things.
That will be okay, that we have this, or we had like little kids having this kind of books to learn everything, right? Yeah.
Well, of course, these books we make usually are not focused on kids as a target group, but okay, we could.
Yeah. But if you put it on a kid seeing these books from 5 years old, maybe it's going to learn in a different way, right?
Yeah, I think just as I learned from the animal So this is, I wasn't much of a reader again. So although text plays an important role in our books, it's always in relation to images. And also, and this is what makes this next book nice, I think. Images usually give more room for different interpretation, for a personal interpretation. So this next book, you could say it's a documentary book about the situation in Ukraine. This book was made during the time that the Russian government was annexating the Crimea Peninsula, the part of Ukraine, and at this time, the photographer, who is Dutch, he met this girl in Ukraine, and they fell in love. So this book is on one hand a love story, and on the other hand, it's a documentary portrait of Ukraine. So when he was in Ukraine, he would take pictures of important things to him, people, places, etc. And they, of course, talk about Ukraine. And when they were separated, when he was back home in the Netherlands and she was still in Ukraine, they started to do video calls and text messaging, of course. So they talk about love, things like a young couple do, but also they talk about the current situation in Ukraine. And for this book, we were thinking of these two layers connecting together. So what we did was all the text messages that were selected with those screenshot of the video calls. We used like this reddish ink for it to group that layer. So you could say the images, the photographs are the voice of the photographer, of him, and the red color is the voice of her. So and what I think is nice about this book is that it's a very subjective view on the state of Ukraine at that moment. But within this subjective view and this very personal view, we learn a lot actually about the country, and maybe we learn more about it than we would have with a very journalistic article in the paper, for instance. So this is a nice thing that images can do as well. So it's not that fixed. It's you can have different interpretations and stories to tell. Yeah, and again, this is actually like a technical thing you using. So to use a fifth color within the layout, you could determine this color to a certain layer of information, which makes it immediately clear that it's a different kind of information than the photographs, and therefore they can function parallel towards each other. And yeah, it was fun to do this. This book is not, I think, not in the exhibition. It came out half a year ago.
Yeah, this is the only one that is not here yet.
All right. So this is a book by Helene Peters, a Belgian photographer. It's called Horse. So it's immediately clear what this book is about the horse. But what is not immediately clear is that this book is about horse meat as well. So Helene comes from a family of horse butchers from after the Second World War. You know, there were more and more cars in the landscape, and the horse were not used anymore. So there was a high demand of meat, and so the horse was like a cheap meat from a high quality actually. So of course this tradition of eating horse meat is dying at the moment. So the family business of Helene's father is dying as well. So he's selling the factory, and Helene thought it was a good moment to kind of have a look at this world of horse meat eating and trading. So on one hand, this book is about the beautiful creature that a horse is, the noble animal, the pet, and the animal that is used for sports and recreation. And on the other hand, it's focusing on the butchers and the factories using this meat. It's quite a documentary book. I like to play with selections of images. like in an abundance amount of images, very diverse. She went from Argentina to the US, to Kyrgyzstan, to France, Italy, Belgium. You're seeing restaurants, you're seeing butchers, you're seeing horse markets, you see Kyrgyzstan weddings where the horse is eaten as a delicatessen, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very rich in its content. The reason I would like to show it to you was about this cover. So this is, I was thinking of a horse skin, actually. Yeah. So when you fold out this cover, it resembles the horse skin as it is peeled off the body. And then the book, of course, can be seen as the blank meat. So the outside of the book is deliberately like this open spine with a red thread, resembling like the veins and the flesh, and then the skin of the horse is wrapped around it. It also resembles a little bit the saddle of the horse. So this was fun to think of, like how can we make a nice cover that already gives away a little bit about what this book is about. And then the last book I want to talk about is a book about from Claudia Den Boer called To Pick Up a Stone. She went to different places in the world, mountains in Tibet and in Central Asia and things like that. And everywhere she picked up stones from these mountains, and at a certain point she saw this resemblance between a stone and a mountain. They come from the same source. They're very different in scale, but they have somehow the same characteristics. So she presented me a very diverse selection of images of stones and rocks and mountains. And it felt a very eclectic selection, so very diverse. And what we did is try to emphasize the diversity of types of images into the design and the production of the book. The book actually has four different type of paper. They have different types of printing, like full color and duotone printing. There's a very translucent paper. There's a paper with one glossy side and one uncoated side, all to kind of emphasize this idea of a very mixed source of images. She uses also different types of negatives and etc. And by combining these different types of images and different types of paper, there's also this half sized papers. It's cut in half. You get like this overlaying images. So you build up the connection between the rock and the mountain. Huh? So actually, this was quite a technical puzzle to have those half-sized pages into it. But yeah, I like to work on these things. And I think Sipul will talk about that as well. He loves to play with this cutted pages as well. It's fun. It's almost like a mathematical playground to make sure everything fits together and works together. So yeah, again, a book without any words, but just pure inspiration and fantasy triggering, I think. So yes, these were my 5 books. I don't know if there is any question already or what you want to do, but
yeah, we could make it at the end after Sybren and after the questions that I have, but we can note the books that you're interested in making questions, and then later we can come up with that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob.
You're welcome.
And
I will stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. It's your turn, Mr. Sip.
Hello, hello, hello. Shall I share my screen also now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Here you go. Nothing to see yet.
No.
Let's see. Thank you, Rob. That was quick. I was not prepared to be. I'm sure that I'm not that quick. I apologize in advance. Let's see if this is a good English day. First, to start off, to talk a little bit about myself. I did study. I did read a lot when I was younger, and ironically, my books have much less text in them most of the time than Rob's books. So that was interesting. I was much too insecure to go to the Arts Academy when I came from high school. So I studied Dutch language and literature first before I went to the Arts Academy at the ripe old age of 27. That was almost too young for me, but I managed to pull through. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, actually. And it's quite strange that I end up now in designing photo books, but because the first 10, 12, 13 years, I didn't design a book at all. I was all into theater posters and stuff like that. But I did the first one, and that came to another one, and so on and so forth. Looking back on what I did after a few years, I managed to see what I did, because I work quite intuitively. When I start thinking, it goes nowhere, but when I start reacting to photos or to a project without thinking too much, it turns out better for me. So I boiled it all down after a while in a few slides that you maybe have seen already, but I will show you anyway. This is the basis of my work: is design with your heart and check with your head. Because I think, for me, that is, I'm quite an emotional designer. Not that I'm yelling at the screen or crying, but I connect on an, I do connect on quite an emotional level with a project. And that's the kind of projects I tend to attract also. But although you have to work intuitively, in my case, you always need to see what you've done so you can see the flaws in it and make it even stronger. So empathy, for me, is the driving force of every good book I do. I will do it quickly, these slides. Experiencing works better than explaining. So I want the reader to experiencing and think for themselves instead of telling them what they should experience. So they're going through the book. They have to make, you have to give them enough clues to see, to steer them in the right direction, and then they have to put themselves into it to finish the whole story. A book, and that's why books are still popular, especially in photo books. A book must be the physical translation of an abstract idea. We will get into that. Don't let design get in the way. So I'm not so much, well, I of course I do a lot of stuff, but I always hope that it advances the story and makes the story better. But I'm not a designer that do all kinds of fonts and things with structures and stuff to make a book look interesting. I'm not that good at it. Also, that helps. Beauty is irrelevant. That's one of my key, because the design needs to fit a topic, and not beauty. Ugly can be very good, very well fitting for a topic, and then it's still a good book. Originality is overrated. So I'm not sure if you are if you have experienced designers or beginning designers, but everything has been done, and probably better than we will ever do. So I don't try to be original. I just try to make something work for that project. And even if Rob has done it before, or some other designer that I really value, like Rob, sometimes I call, but it has all been done before. But you have to make sure that what you do is not because it's cool, but because it works. Even this, dare to state the bloody obvious. So sometimes you like to be, sometimes you just have to say, put a horse on a book about horse, because that's how it works. You can do a pig on it, but that's unnecessarily complicating. This is the part that I was talking about. Engage the reader. You have to try to make them get into the book, work with it, be active with it. So frustrate them to an extent, obviously. Steal their time. Discourage browsing. A lot of my books, not all, but a lot of my books are really difficult to browse through because they're all kind of faults, and booksellers hate my books because you can't flip through it all the time. But I really want to steal their time so they can engage in a book. And then better to frustrate them and to try to get them into it. Be incomplete, so the reader needs to put something of himself or herself into it. Divert expectations. Try to, when you have a certain topic, people know the context most of the times of a topic, and then they expect a certain flow of how they expect what they are going to see or in what sequence. And sometimes you have to get away from that to give them a clean view again on the topic. Oh, I thought I had more. So these are kind of the things that with hindsight make my book design practice. But that's all words, so I think that I will start with showing some books. I'm not sure how this will work, but I hope it does. This, in fact, is my...
Yeah, Sib is working okay.
Yeah, okay. This, in fact, is my graduation project at the Arts Academy. It's the first book I designed and the last for many years. And like every insecure art student, I was postponing my final choices till the end, until I was too afraid to have nothing, more afraid to have nothing than to have something not good. So then I decided, okay, serial killers. I will do it about serial killers, as you do. And that's when I learned that when you make a first step, that brings on the next step, that brings on the next step, that brings on the next step. You just have to take the first step. Serial killers, and I wanted a book that turned around. So I made this I wrote this story about a very boring man who was very strict in time. So it's his day, how it starts. It starts at 6:13 exactly, and then it goes on. And these are all pictures from magazines. 7:30, 8:30, he's going out the door. He's going to his work. It's all really, really boring. But what you can see already is because I had made a choice that I wanted to make the book turn around, all the pages needed to be smaller because otherwise it won't fit into each other. It will get stuck. So that gave me the opportunity at the edges to build up another image. And the turning around gave me also the possibility to change little portraits in the middle of the books of children, as you will see. Actually, all the images are not really connected to the story, but they get a bit more ominous along the way. So here's an electric chair. And still the story is really, really boring. I can tell you, you have a mouse. You have a mouse and a snake. You have a mouse and a snake and little birdie. So it's getting a bit more ominous, and the text is also getting more suspenseful because it's getting smaller. So we get to the end of the day, and at the end of the day, it turns out on the way, precisely on time to his train home, he kills a girl in an alley, or a boy, I'm not sure anymore. And he's back in his train precisely on time, as always. And this picture also has no connection at all, but because of the story, I think people will try to make sense of it. Or do they? I'm not sure. So this is actually a book of my own, but most of the time I, of course, design for other, for real photographers.
Just to let them know that to the people who's here in Caracas, this book is part of the exhibition.
Oh, okay. So then to the real stuff, but that's where it all started. Talking about rather emotional stories. This is a book by a Norwegian photographer, and he photographed the last years of his mother, who was having a progressive mental disease, which got worse and worse and worse to the end of the life. When she was young, it was okay, but after her 30th year, it slowly began, and she became depressed, manic. She heard voices in her head, and it was not end well, and she actually ended her life. And the photographer, Adrian, started photographing the last years of her life, which was pretty heavy photos, especially because he knows that he genetically has the same disease. So he kind of knows that he will go through that too. And then he also had his youth pictures from their family album when she was really young and happy and a normal child. And so what you do, you have these quite heavy last year's pictures and the normal happy young youth pictures. You can put them in separate sections, of course. First the youth pictures, and then the later pictures. Which will people? What will people do? They will do. Ah, yes, young. Oh, yes, old. Oh, that's okay. Or you can try to combine them, but then then people will try to make direct connections between the young picture and the old picture. And the older of the later years. So I tried to do something else. I tried to think of something that they could connect to this woman, not knowing the story, as she was as a young girl. So you got to learn to know her a bit before you were able to see the later more heavy story. So what you see now is the binder and I sew 2 long strips of printed paper on the cover of the small book in the middle. So when you roll this out, you see her growing up in a way. And then you, of course, you have to fold it out. And so you see from left to right that she is getting in her teens. getting in love, married, pregnant, and then she gets a child. And this is still visible all the time. You see there still, you have this maybe a bit more this connection to her when she was young. And then I think, I hope, you never know for sure, this inside of the book hits harder. So, because you can't escape it by flipping through it quickly and, well, at least that's what I hope it does. But there are people who hate this because they can't keep it in their hands and flip through it and have a quick look. But actually, I don't really care. But I'm not a publisher like Rob, so publishers hate this. I will speed it up a bit. I will try to do it quick so I can maybe sneak a sixth book in. I will do another one.
6 books in 2 minutes.
What?
No.
I still have 2
Sorry,
minutes.
You still have time. No, more than 2 minutes.
Okay, I will show you first one other book that's really about the physical translation of a concept. And this is quite an old artist actually, who took up photography quite late in her life. She's much more of a sculptor normally. And her personal story is that when she was a young girl, her mother, who fled from World War II Germany to Holland, never talked about her past. My client never knew her mother really well because she kept everything quiet about her youth, about the past, etc. Even when she, as a young girl, found a suitcase on top, high in a closet, and she opened it, there were a few photos from her youth, but cut in half. Not sure why, but even then, the day after that, the suitcase was gone. Her mother found out and got rid of it. So she doesn't have, she didn't develop that being rooted in a history, a family history. So she was really intrigued by people who had that really, really well. So she interviewed 6 or 7 people or couples who had a really fixed spot in life where they're really rooted, and that was enough. That little part of the world was enough for them. Totally in contrast to her own story. So obviously every person has his own corner. So different booklets, that's easy. But I thought to myself, how would you visualize that physically? Well, a person that is, I saw it like a person digging himself into his environment, quite literally. So every book is the same. Your world is getting smaller and smaller, literally, is what I would say. So every page is getting smaller and smaller. It's quite simple. But the main part, of course, is that you do this, the environment they live in, and you only see them in the middle. That's where, and this is the world they are surrounded with. And when you have a concept like this, it's easy. You do that for all of them. Binding is a little thing that has to be worked out. Because this one still lives in his home that he was born in and grew up in, and he obviously collects. It's a small home, but it's full of toys. He collects toys. I'll speed it up. And there he is. Dug into his own environment. There was only one problem with this concept. She had another story to tell in one book. And that was her own story about her mother that she didn't really know. And I heard the story, I told you the story about the photos cut in half, but I felt that this system should be exactly the same, but have a totally different outcome. So this is the book of the artist herself about her mother that she never really knew. And that is the same setup with smaller pages. She still had a few, only 10, 12 pictures of her mother when she was young. We tell the story about the suitcase. And instead of finding the people inside their environment in the other booklets, we find nothing. Because that's what she felt about, what she knew really about her own. So the system is the same, but the message is the opposite, actually. Okay. I don't hear Lego, so I go on. I want to do now something else. This is not so much to do with binding, but about two approaches to one body of work. To the left is the first book, In the Shadows of the Pyramids, by Laura El Tantawi, where she photographed the Arabic Spring on Tahrir Square in Cairo for years and years. There were a lot of demonstrations. There was violence. There was a lot of things going on. And 5 years later, she wanted to do a jubileum and a book about the 5-year remembrance of that. Completely, totally the same pictures, but done otherwise. The first book. When you do a book like this, it's a historical event, so you tend to do it chronologically. But what I found the first time around is when I did that, it went nowhere. It didn't give you the feeling of being there, about the hectic, about the danger, about the energy of. So after trying to do it a few times chronologically, I asked her, what if we put all the pictures together and edit it like one night? Oh, she had some text pages too. And this book was what you call Japanese bound. So at the edges they are folded around, so you can open the picture. So inside those Japanese folded pages, there was very small the dates of the pictures on the outside, so you can trace back when they were taken. So it gets darker. People come together. Things start heating up. And it gets quite violent. And in the end of the book, we slowly go back to daylight. So that's actually edited as a one night. But when we she asked me to do the 5-year edition. Well, obviously we could do a reprint because the book did really well. A lot of people wanted it in their collection, but that was it's no fun, right? To do it the same. So I proposed to her to do it exactly what I didn't want to do the first time, chronologically. And we could do that because we already had the first book. So we already had an edit that communicated the intensity and the energy. So what you see on the left here is are the dates. 2006. And also these are the Japanese folded pages, but we cut them open on one side. So when you go on a first level, you go through the book, you see only white pages with dates. But when you really are going to read it, you'll fold them over. And these are purely chronologically. The great thing about this approach is that in the first book, the quality of our individual photos got a bit lost in the energy, but now you see them one by one and can enjoy them in another way. So these are two totally different approaches to the same body of work. Still not sure if people like it or not, but I thought it might be nice to show that. Then even simpler. Still time, right?
Yeah, you have how much book you own left?
This one and maybe another one.
Okay.
We just have 1 hour, so we have time.
Okay.
So Sybren, keep going. Thank you.
But when it gets boring, just shoot me. Come. This is a book by Florian van Roekel. His first book that I also did was his graduation project, How Terry Likes His Coffee. It's probably in the exhibition, I think. And Florian had a problem because his graduation book was picked up by Martin Parr and chosen by the 30 best books of the first decade of this century. And well, that was a burden that is really hard to bear when you're just young and a beginning photographer and still finding out stuff. So it took him quite some time to get a new body of work for the book, and it became a school in France. And this is more about editing than anything else. So it's a school, so we shot a lot of these green boards that are in the school. And this book is edited like this. This works differently than editing spreads left to right. And I think it's because when editing spreads from left to right, you have one horizon, even if it shifts. So it melts into one image in your head in a way. Now they are really separated. And that's important in his case because he has the ability to photograph things like objects almost, even people. So it's more like a thing than so you can combine forms better. And what the great thing about his photography is, not all of them, he has a lot of photos of people you don't see their faces. And if you recognize that, you are able to edit like that. He has a lot of images with faces, recognizable faces. But when we saw the almost sculptural quality of the ones without faces, I proposed to him to get all the recognizable pictures out and only have and that's a hard edit choice because there are a lot of darlings you have to kill to keep it this clean in edit. But I'm really happy that he did, because I think it works out. I'm still not sure who chose this very gleamy, glossy paper. I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I'm not sure where that came in. Then another one.
Sip, one thing with this book, I really love that you show it, because this shows how design must not be just like making it explicit. You know, you just take one decision of editing, and that's enough to make a good book too, right?
Yeah. There's someone who said that, I think it's Thomas Wiedershoven, a good book has only one, has only one editing idea. That's it. That's enough. More editing ideas is too much.
Yeah.
Not sure about that, but kind of works. This is the last one I will show you, because it's a very simple binding. It's only saddle stitch in the end. But this is also quite an emotional book, because this photographer photographed old Marines, which suffer from PTSS, is it in English? Post-traumatic stress syndrome, after having served in Afghanistan or in other war zones. And she photographed them in an older age in the at the place in the Kazerne. Rob, was the Kazerne? But the place that they got where they were trained, and that was fallen down already. It was not in use anymore, so it was deteriorating so you had people in trouble mentally, and that it shows. And in this environment, it was almost too much. So the solution was actually contrary to what I thought it would be. I took it a step further, making it even more dramatic. Because what I did is I cut the images of the people. I cut them with the pages with the environment, so they kind of melt into this. I'm not sure how you would call this, which is very drastic, and not every photographer would go along with it, obviously, but she did. I have to say, always, no photographer is being hurt with designing these books or got killed. Everybody agreed on the design, because if my photographer or my client is not happy, I didn't do a good job. So even if it seems very far going or very, even then the photographers were agreeing with the choices. Okay.
And you haven't been shot or hurt or something?
Me?
By someone? Yeah.
Unfriended maybe on Facebook. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sid. That's a really nice group of books and a nice class on how you work with books, right? I don't know if you're okay with time to make some questions that I wanted to do.
Oh, well, shit. I have to unfriend you.
Yeah.
Where?
Maybe we could select some of the questions if people
I have to stop screen sharing, right?
Yeah.
But I lost I lost it. I lost it.
I don't know if you could do it from here.
I know. I'm not.
Volgens mij als je met je cursor boven in je scherm gaat, Siep, dan krijg je een rood balkje volgens mij.
Is it? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, there you
Got
are.
it? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for this.
No, don't you worry. Yeah. So I have a few questions that I wanted to ask Rob and Sip. And there you go. So of course you're later going to be have some Q&A. These ones that for me personally they were important. So the first one is how do you see photo book design today globally? Not necessarily in your country, because now you could see how it is, maybe a piece of it. But how do you see books are being designed for this kind of books? Whatever you want to be the first one to answer.
Yeah, I can answer that. Well, I'm visiting a lot of these book fairs, and what I see a lot is that you have these classical books with a monumental image on the right hand page and a white one on the left, and then you turn the page and there's another one and there's another one, and
yeah,
and I mean this probably would work in 30 or 40 years ago with very monumental, like I would call that stop images, like an image that you could look at over and over again, and it's very but I don't think it's really connecting to what's happening now in photography. I mean, everyone is a photographer. We put a lot of images on Instagram, and so the image itself has lost a little bit of its value, I think. So I think it's much more interesting, and Sip showed it beautifully in his presentation. It's like it's a matter of what you do with the image. It's about what you're telling with the image. So editing becomes much more important than used to. But I still see quite some of these classic, I would say, boring books. I'm always amazed about that still happening. I mean, for some photographers, it probably works, and they're usually printed in this glossy paper, because of course you can print more sharply and more brilliantly, but then you need to have a hot melt, because otherwise you can't bind it correctly, so the book doesn't fall open very well. I mean, and then you're kind of stuck with this bit of a shitty object, which it's totally not inspiring. I'm sorry to be, but
no, I really appreciate how you fix this answer, because I really feel like that, and I got almost angry when I see this kind of books.
Yeah,
I think there's a distinction between photo lovers and photo book lovers. What a photo lover really wants that picture on the right side and blank page because they want to see the photo, and they won't see the whole story. They won't see the narrative. They just want to see the photo. Fuck off with all the fancy binding and that's legit. But we are not into that. No.
Yeah, and I really like that distinction, that the photo lover and the photo book lover, there's a really great distance. Maybe someone believes there are photo book lovers, but they are photo lovers, just like that. Okay, that's a really nice answers. Yeah. So this one, how do you consider having any connection with Julian Schroeffer tradition in the Dutch photo book design timeline, or just do you feel are you totally disconnected from it? If people saw the last talk, the last week, we just show some Julian Schroeffer work just to make context of it. So how do you see this question?
To be fair, I try to see as little of other people's books as possible. Not that I'm arrogant or because
No.
a few things, because they make me insecure when they are really good ones. So that's my feeble personality. And on the other hand, I think the project designs the books, so it comes from the projects, and I want to remain the state of plausible deniability. So when somebody says you stole that from me, I must be able to say without lying, I don't know it. But I get really anxious in book fairs. There's so much, and then I say, what do I have to add to that anymore? So I'm really I think that Rob is doing a good job being on all those fairs without getting crazy all the time.
No, but I can really relate to what you're saying. I have the same feeling. If you see too much, you think every designer makes more beautiful books than you are, and I mean, it also has to do with a book. Designing a book is also always a struggle. You know, it's always like, you know, it's a lot of work. I mean, the ideas we both present now, they may look sometimes like, okay, this is like a very clear idea that you just pop in your head and you just do it. I mean,
it is.
Yeah, when you show it finished, it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Sybren's books they look all so clear in their idea, but I'm quite sure that it took quite some time. Huh?
Yeah.
I must say I was a bit surprised by your question, because I know Jurian Schrover as a graphic designer, as someone who does like very graphical things. Huh? I didn't knew him as a book designer, actually, so I had to look it up. And actually, I think there's a lot of connection between his work and I think both of us. He is able to kind of connect the mathematic, like rational idea, with a very emotional impact. And I think, yeah, in both of our works, this is really an important element. So there was this famous debate between Jan van Toren and Wim Krauwel in the 70s, and the one is standing for rationality, the other one is standing for emotional approach. And there was this famous debate, and I think what you see in Dutch design is actually the combination of this. I mean, design with your heart, check with your head. This is exactly what it's all about.
Yeah. The middle of that is the Dutch design. Yeah, I'm agree with that.
Rob, you can answer all my questions, please.
No.
no, that's a compliment.
Yeah, but it is clear that you are actually a reader and I'm not. So you're starting with all these lines.
Yeah, you complement each other. Yeah, Rob will talk with images, and then you talk.
My books have hardly any text, so yours have a lot of text most of the time.
Yeah, but I never read it. No.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this answer already the next question was, what do you think could be the distinctive aspect of Dutch photo book design today? I think we already see each other in your work and in your asset. I don't know if you want to complement something else on this one.
No.
Well, I think, I mean, there's this. The Netherlands is a country with a huge design tradition, and the main thing, which is where everyone always talks about, is that there's this trust between a client and a designer. This is really a collaboration, and I mean, the last book Siep showed, I mean, if a photographer is willing to cut his photographs in half in order to make the book work better, I mean, this says a lot about the trust they have, the designer and a photographer have for each other.
To my defense, in the last book, I always tell my clients, when you have the page in between and you do it like this, you still see the whole picture.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Just in one view of the book, you have all complete. Yeah, and I think of what you said, Rob, is really important to say, because you can see where the people is understanding that image are transforming into a book, and not it's just this image alone in the universe. You know, it's becoming a new book. Is going to be a different thing. I think to understand when people pass through seeing their images in a computer or in a negative, and then later come up with a book. That's a whole different world, right?
Yeah.
So this one tells how do you think design can support photography in books, if it does?
Very well. Yeah. I even dare to say that some of the books we made are actually, I think some of them have success because of the design. It's not to be to praise myself or anything, but sometimes the design works so well in emphasizing the story that I think it would be less strong project without the design part of it.
And then the design in the sense of editing, sequencing, and building a physical whole out of it, which looks very logical when it's done, but is a lot of work to get it there, as we talked about.
Yeah, I think it's for the natural thing that we see the book finish, then we think that it's really natural, and it's not in the beginning. But people see it really natural when it's done, but before it's not. So that's a real problem that we as a designers can struggle with authors, right?
And sometimes a project is not totally complete or not
or defined,
or they're defined, and you can make sense of it by making it into a book in a certain way, and fill the holes with non-photography means.
I actually sorry. I actually love working on book projects that at first you get the images, and I actually like working on book projects where the images are a bit mediocre, or like you not immediately think this is a great project, you know, because you can do much more with it to make it a good project. If I receive beautiful images, I think, okay, what I can do, I can only put them on the page, and you know,
it's already done. Yeah.
So I can only destroy it actually. Yeah. So it's much more nicer to work.
I totally agree, but I never dare to say that in a lecture, because I'm afraid that my clients are watching.
No, but yeah, okay. No, but
you say it already. Yeah.
I never work on bad projects, but sometimes, you know, you think, okay, well, sometimes photographers have a dummy, and the dummy is really poor, but you can already see if you make a better selection, sometimes maybe crop an image better, or you can really bring a project to life.
Also, like comparing what is photography as like a monument, and seeing photography as now, as you could say that a photography made with an iPhone is also a photography too. So that's a main step in photography right now, and making photo books right now, right?
Yeah, and I showed you the Lego book, but I think also the when I get images for a book, I see them as building blocks. You start building a new story out of it. It's actually a new source.
Of course, yeah. So what do you think is the most important stage while designing a photo book?
Connecting with the work.
Okay, that could be at the beginning, or you connect with the work while you're working.
Both. It's even more important for me than connecting with the client.
Okay.
I always fight more for the book than for the client. And hopefully that's the same in the end, but not always.
Yeah, it's not always like that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think for me, the first encounter with the work is always an important moment, because it's, you can act as a reader, as someone who is approaching the work for the first time. So that's a very important moment. Then I think the again, referring to Siep's wonderful text, you know, designing with your heart. So you start, you know, intuitively working on the images. So that's an important moment. And then checking then to have a little bit more distance, to step back and let it sink in, and have a bit more objective view on the whole thing. That's always also important. And for me personally, it's important to keep my head with the project also in the last stage, because you know, sometimes when I designing a project, I'm very like eager and enthusiastic in the beginning, and I love creating it. And then, you know, at the end, you know, you have the text corrections, and you have like all the final detailing. And sometimes yeah, it's a danger for me to lose then the interest in the project, actually, because in your head the project's already finished, except for the actual production of it.
But we never drop the ball, do we?
No. And
Really.
also, you know, and it's important to work with other people as well, also with people that take care of the binding, of the printing process, of lithography, just to have fresh eyes on the project again in the last stage.
And what you said, sorry, what you said about being the reader, you have the position of the reader in the beginning is really important, because the photographer, and I love them all, they know their work so well by the time they come. They are all insecure about their images. They know their work all so well that they're not interested in the first level of meaning or the second level of meaning, but they're interested in the little red berries behind the person and in the end somewhere. So you have to pull them back to the first reader experience once again, and to what makes their pictures actually great, because they sometimes they are gone away from that after all that work. And they know how cold it was when they took that picture, or how much they had to go to the toilet. It's all part of how they value an image, which is not that interesting for us readers.
I really can relate to what Siep says here. Yeah, this is really true. It's sometimes you they don't see anymore.
Yeah. They are blind when they get the images to you. They are almost blind. And that's the point, that it's really good to get back to see them in a different way, or in a new way even they are looking at. And that's really important, these two answers that you made, because I really felt that in the beginning, when I was starting design, always teachers were telling me that you just a service to the people, and you cannot have an opinion or a feel into it, because you have to be like really cold with the content. And I feel every day, I feel more that you have to, as Siep say, work with your heart. For the first time you see it, you have to feel it, because you're not feeling it, you're not going to enjoy anything that you do. And then later it's going to reflect on your work personally, right?
Yeah.
But still, if my client, I don't want satisfied clients, I want happy clients. And it might be a struggle, but if my client is not happy, then I didn't do a good job. So in the end, there's one boss, and it's not me.
Okay. Okay. Why do you think photo books are so popular nowadays?
I think for many photographers, it's a more easy way to get the work into the world than for instance exhibitions. So it's almost like
it's more like a portable way to do it, right?
It's a tool for them to bring their work out in the world, and I think also the market. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's bigger than like 30 years ago or anything. I don't know. It's just that the internet is just
showing us
expanding the
more.
market so much more. I mean, look at us today. We were talking about photo books, and we were on the other side of the ocean. I mean, you couldn't have thought about this.
Maybe it's just because it's the antidote to internet and virtual presentations, because on your screen on internet is all a glass wall.
No.
All weight is gone, all smell is gone, all touch is gone, all sizes are relative because you can do it what you want. The intimacy and the physicality of a book is, people long for that, I guess, and that's good. That's good for us. And the books are excellent way of presenting a project, I feel, even better most of the times than exhibitions, because you have more control.
More control of the narrative, and actually you could, most of the time you can show more images than in an exhibition as well.
Yeah, even thinking that people says that net is a better way, a more democratic way, it's a more easy way to show images. I think the uncontrollable way to see images are getting us crazy, and in the book you could like take a break from that cascade of images, and that is a really important thing right now to have, right?
Yes, you're right.
So I think we could finish with this to get to people the chance to ask. What has been the most influential Dutch photo book for you, and some word photo book that could be influential to you, not for just for your work, or that you see it and blows your mind?
Yeah, as I told you, I don't see a lot of photo books, but I obviously see books by Rob or Hans Gremme of Kummer and Herman. They're zijn onontkoombaar, inevitable. And we see each other on Instagram, of course. But for me, in an early stage, I think it was two books by Geert van Kesteren, designed by Mavis and Van Deursen, Baghdad Calling and Why Mr. Why. That was really, for me at that moment, that was starting out as photo book designer, and then it was, well, that was another world for me. That helped a lot.
Sib, could you please write the title in the chat, if you could put it, because I didn't get the title.
No, it's very Dutch also.
The nice thing is that I also have a book about from Mavis and Van Deursen that I was thinking of my influential book. It's called Elasticity from Aglaia Conrad. The nice thing about this book is that I think it's all like cityscapes. It has a certain simplicity as well. The nice thing is also that they actually, the bigger the images, the bigger the captions, things like that. It's so nice.
It's really nice, yeah.
They are so good.
Yeah, the book
they're
is
the grandmasters.
It lays open very well. It's printed. The paper is very nice. The printing is good. I mean, the touch is good. The typography, and none of this is like very spectacular, but
yeah,
everything
but it's
is
really
right.
good.
I've taken this book so many times as a reference. But and another one that is really for me is the Dierke Atlas, the Welt Atlas. It's a German atlas, which is printed in like 8 colors.
Wow, that's
Printing
amazing.
is so great. This is like a classical atlas, like they don't make them anymore.
Yeah.
I want just show you the like these
Wow.
things.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's like a candy for the eye. You know, this is like the universe in an atlas with a very intense blue. I'm quite sure these inks are not allowed anymore because they are.
Yeah, I don't think they don't do it in 8 colors anymore. Yeah.
And then again, you said a few times the book from Mavis and Van Deursen looked really simple, right?
Yeah.
But my personal, although I'm not that good at it, my personal idea is that the amount of attention put in a book by a designer, even to make it really simple, so you can't see there's a lot of stuff going on, that will add to the personal, the weight of the book, literally almost. So I know this designer Robin Uleman, who is quite compact in his visual language, so it's not going all over the place like I tend to do, but he's so precise, and he decides so slowly about how big his font, how big the everything is, that you feel that attention, you feel that in a book, even when it looks simple. I totally believe that, and I think Names and Figures is the same.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have any questions in the Q&A section.
Yes, thank you very much to everyone to this wonderful talk. I'm gonna pick a few questions because there are too many there, and I'm gonna start it. This is from Sip. Some of your books have complex bindings like charcoal. Do traditional printers accept these words with ease?
Well, the printers are okay with it. The binders, they are because the printing is easy, but the binders, some printers do that in-house, obviously, and they don't like that because they want to have every book bound on a machine. So most of them, these are hand bound, and there are few excellent hand binders, but I work with a pretty young one in Friesland, Wietse Popma. I think Rob does too. Rob, werk jij met Wietse?
No. We did on one project, but it's still
okay.
It didn't work.
And he's really up for the challenge. So when I think of something crazy, he says, "Okay, let's think about it," and then we work on how to do it. But obviously, it costs a lot of money because every difficult binding can't be done on a machine, so it will be expensive for the client. So that's quite a burden that I put on my clients that are mostly not rich, and so I apologize to them.
No, I think maybe the difference is between your work. I think you work in smaller editions.
Yes, probably, yeah.
And because we are a publisher as well, we need to think about, selling the book and about keeping the cost a bit manageable, and also slightly bigger editions. So we are more into the mechanical production, although we try to find boundaries there, but
which I admire, because that's even more difficult to be innovative in that field than doing all that crazy hand-bound stuff.
Thank you. This is for both of you. How do you deal with photographers who treat their work or see it as sacred and untouchable work? Or what is your take on this kind of approach when you see it from a distance, or if you have to work in this kind of environment?
I try to, with the first conversation I have with a photographer, I always already try to figure out if that person is a bit open to this collaboration. I mean, we both have to give something in the collaboration, and if a photographer is very precise or very treating his images as a sacred, how you say it? Sacred. I don't know. This is probably not the person I intend to work with. Although I must say I hardly see it. I mean, most of the photographers that come to me are quite open for it. Yeah. Of course, they have their favorites, and they have sometimes their wishes, but.
For me, the same. Sometimes it's the other way around, because I think you should only do strange bindings or unusual bindings and other different page sizes when it's necessary or when it helps in the narrative. So sometimes I do a really simple book, and then my client is disappointed. And I say, well, your seat, why don't you do this and this? I say, no, you don't need it. Oh, come on. So it's the other way around sometimes.
Yeah. I think that people is looking for the book, and that's what.
You
Because
sound
you have
like a Star Wars
this
robot.
catalog of tools to apply in every book, right?
You sound like a 3PO from Star Wars now.
Yeah, the connection was.
No, that I was saying that people is looking for your work, for the books that you did, but you don't necessarily have to do it in the same way because you work with the project itself, not with a catalog of appliance that you can apply to everything, whatever you want, right?
Well, you're most of the time you're good when they know your work. But when I did theater posters, I won the theater poster award, and new clients came because of the award, not because of my work, and that didn't work well at all because they didn't know my work, but they just wanted to have an award-winning poster designer, whatever that may be.
Thank you. This is our last question, and maybe I don't know if Ricardo would like to make another one. Can you listen at me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is our last question, and I don't know if Ricardo have another one.
No.
Yes. Have you seen any Venezuelan photo book? Which one do you like?
Monsanto, of course.
Yeah, Monsanto. Yeah, I mean, this is actually how I.
That's not technically a Venezuelan photo book.
Now it is.
It's a Venezuelan designer, yes.
But Mathieu is half Venezuelan, so it's like a Venezuelan photo book, yeah.
No, I wasn't. I'm not very aware of the South American design scene in photo books, to be honest. So I can't really answer to that. I know we met Ricardo together in Leipzig for the jury of the best book design of the world, and I remember that there's not many submissions from South America, right?
Yeah. And also I can blame you because the distribution to all the world from this side of the world is really expensive. So it's not just the production that is not appearing. It's how you take the book, because you can sell a book that it costs, I don't know, $20, but then later the shipping to Europe, it costs almost like the double of it. So it's really hard to someone wants to buy a book like that, right?
Yes.
But is there in South America, you would say this is a Spanish-speaking community, a large part of the world. In itself, it would be quite a big market, huh?
Yeah, but it's really also a struggle to send to each country on the site, because it's even more expensive to send from Venezuela to Colombia or to Brazil than to send it to Japan. So it's really awkward. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you don't have like postal connections between some of the countries. Some of them, yes, they do it, but like two of one. I mean, Argentina with Uruguay, and they are separated by a river, so they can do it by a ship. So, but sending from Mexico to Chile, it's really expensive. You know,
yeah,
so
you have like
maybe
big mountains and jungles in between. So this is
yeah. Maybe before doing books, maybe we have to settle up buying some planes and buying some trucks to send the books, right?
Yeah. You first need infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, of course, that's the convenience of Europe, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, I think that's it. I really thank both of you to take the time to dialogue with all the people here and with me. And of course, I thank a lot of the support that you have with this exhibition and with this idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
I'm
you
going
so
to
much
make.
for joining to this meeting, and I hope to see you on Friday at the same time. Thank you.
Ciao, gracias.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.